Hello, welcome to today's session. My name is Sarah Ashworth and I'm going to be leading you through today's session on build skills and get work experience. I'm also joined and ably abetted by my two colleagues, Kim and Anna Pascal. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Kim first.
Hi everyone, my name is Kim and I'm a careers consultant working mostly with humanities students, and I'm here today just to help Sarah on the chat. So if you've got any questions throughout the webinar, you can put it in the questions chat box and I'll be monitoring those throughout the session, and we'll pause at various points to let Sarah answer your questions.
Thanks, Kim. Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna Pascal and I work in the careers service also within the employability team, and I'm on the call today to talk a little bit about the work experience bursary and how that might be able to support you.
Okay, fab. So thank you to Kim and Anna. I think they're going to switch their cameras off now, but they should be lurking around if needed. My name's Sarah Ashworth. I'm also a careers consultant. I mostly work with biology, medicine and health students. And today we're going to talk about how you can build skills and get work experience. Now, as we're going to be a mixed audience from a variety of different subject backgrounds, what I'm going to give you is key hints and tips, so different strategies that you can use to find work experience. So this is the menu for today. So the key objective for today is a strategy for you to get the work experience that you want. And by the end of the session, we're going to have identified key skills that are valued by employers, so things that you might want to be looking to develop in your work experience. We're going to talk about the different types of work experience and when these might be available. So that's point 3. So what possible opportunities there might be based on the stage you're at in your degree programme. We're also going to consider the impact that COVID restrictions have had on work experience, because obviously we are existing in a very different environment to previously. So I'm going to chat to you about the impact that COVID has had specifically on work experience. And then actually the vast majority of the time is going to be spent on number 5. So it's going to be about thinking about different work experience strategies and giving you an opportunity to decide what your suitable next step is. So as we run through today's session, I'm going to recap on each of these 5 points or learning objectives for today's session. And if you want to, you might want to list 1 to 5 and write yourself something down for what you have learned or what you're taking away for yourselves from each of these sections. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start with number 1, identifying skills that are valued by employers. So here's a great long list of skills, and these are skills which employers often say they want. Now, various different organisations will do reviews of employers to ask them about skills and skills shortages, and these are often quite specific to different niche groups. But these are the list that I've got here are a common set of skills which we see right across the board for a whole range of different graduate roles. But I'm interested to know, which 3 do you think employers often say that graduates lack? So feel free to put it in the chat. I shall have a quick look in the chats. So feel free to put anything there. If you can't write in the chat, then by all means use questions, and perhaps Kim can tell me if any of those are coming through. So which of these skills, teamwork, organisation, initiative, analytical thinking, decision making, communication, commercial awareness, adaptability, leadership, networking, numeracy, problem solving, research, time management or initiative or IT skills do you think that employers say people lack, or graduates in particular lack? Okay. Not seeing anything coming through at the moment, but do feel free to carry on and we'll come back to seeing what your thoughts are on that very shortly. So actually these are the 3 which often employers say they don't see in graduate CVs. Now, my belief, particularly the teamwork and leadership, is not that graduates are lacking these, but that perhaps they're not coming across as strongly as they could do from your work experience and various other things. Commercial awareness can be quite a tricky one, and often it's a bit of it's a term which not very clear on, but commercial awareness really, work experience gets to the heart of what commercial awareness really is. It's about understanding how the world of work works for you. And it's about understanding how the particular sector that you're interested in, whether that's healthcare, whether that's accountancy, whether that's law, whether that's the charity sector, it's understanding how things work in that sort of area. So how do people work? How do they build their careers? How do they get on? How does the whole thing actually manage itself? And work experience can be a really great way of doing that. So as part of number one, thinking about skills, if you wanted to write something down, then I would suggest that you perhaps choose the top 3 skills on which you would like to focus currently. And then what you can do when looking for work experience, you can have a think about how the work experience might be able to help you achieve some of these skills. Now, if you wanted to go into this in a little bit more detail, then you can do a transferable skills audit. And there's a link here to our transferable skills audit on the Careers Service website. You can download, I should have said at the beginning, you can download these slides from the handouts section on this actual system. So if you are unsure about getting hold of these, then please do download the slides from the handout section. And by completing an audit, it gives you an opportunity to think about where do you do really well? Where are your natural strengths? Where are you sort of doing okay? And where are the things which perhaps you struggle with? And work experience can be an absolutely great opportunity to think about strengthening or building on some of these different areas. Okay, moving on swiftly, number 2. So I wanted to talk about what to actually mean about work experience. What am I talking about when I say work experience? The long and short of it is it's basically anything you do. So that's the straightforward answer. It's anything you might do. It's about internships, it's about placements, part-time works, perhaps a day or 2 of work shadowing where you watch somebody else doing their job, or work experience. It's volunteering, it's taking part or taking a lead in student societies and student activities. And it can also be about online courses. It's not always, when we're thinking about work experience, it's not always about exactly what you have done, but it's how you write or how you talk about it that's really important. So what did you get from that process? What was it important to you? I talk to so many students who say, well, I don't have any work experience. And then when you talk to them, they talk about perhaps a part-time job and they volunteer here and they're a member of a society there. All of that counts as work experience. And it's thinking about those activities in terms of what skills is it helping you to develop, or what skills does it demonstrate that you've got, because you can use this when talking to employers. And if you're struggling to get work experience, you can use these experiences as well to get more work experience. Now, relevant experience can be really key in competitive careers. So being based in biology, medicine and health, I tend to work with a number of people who are interested in clinical careers, for example. And relevant experience can be really quite key to making a good personal statement if, for example, you wanted to do medicine. And it can be tricky. Now, if you want advice on very specific areas of relevant experience, then what I would suggest is that you speak to the careers consultant who's a specialist in your area. So each faculty has its own group of specialist careers consultants. So if you want to book an appointment, then the Careers Service website will come up at the end and you can do that yourself with online booking. And what's really key with work experience is about being proactive, not just reactive. So it's fine to be reactive where you see something and you might apply for it. But actually what I'd really encourage you to do, particularly if you've got an idea of exactly what you want to do with work experience, about being proactive. And I'll talk to you more about how you can do this a little bit later. So I thought it was worth putting in this table more as a reference. So different types of work experience have different levels of formality. So some are very formal, and by formal I mean that they are advertised, they've perhaps got a very clear structure to them, they're going to have very set dates, very set start and end dates. There will also, whereas informal work experience may be a bit more fluid. It might be an opportunity for you to shape exactly what you want to do, which can be great if you've got a clear idea, but it can be a bit confusing if you haven't. So actually that's why it's perhaps good to have an understanding of how formal different work experience types are, so that you can choose something that's going to suit you. Also, the million-dollar question, quite literally, is will the work experience be paid or unpaid? So here I've said whether something is likely to be paid or unpaid, and of course there are always exceptions. Where I've put both, so the internship placement and summer placement, you get both. You can get paid opportunities, but some opportunities may be unpaid. And I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about how you approach securing work experience that's paid a little bit later. And also the length of work experience can vary significantly from insight events or volunteering that can just be one day in length to a year-long placement, which could be 12, 13, sometimes even 14 months, and basically everything in between. Okay, so hopefully that's helped to clarify some of the different types of work experience. And if you wanted to think for number 2, which one you think might suit you best based on what you know about how you work, and whether you would like a formal one, and how long you're looking to do it for, and how important it is to be paid or not. Okay, so now we're going to have a think about what's perhaps feasible based on the stage you're at in your degree. So any time is good time to get work experience, and any year group can look for part-time work, for volunteering, to self-arrange work experience, or work shadowing, where you go in and in essence watch somebody do their job for a day or a few days. If you're in your first year, then the sort of most formal opportunity for you to get involved with is an Insight Day. Now these tend to happen in the spring holiday time, so the spring vacation, so March, April time. These quite a few companies are offering virtual Insight Days. You tend to see them in professional services organisations, so organisations like finance, in the finance sector, the banking sector, if that's different to finance, and the legal sector. So you might get some of these Insight Days there, but there isn't any reason why you couldn't arrange your own Insight Day. And I will talk further about how you might go about that a little bit later. If you're in what we call a pre-final year, so if you're in a 3-year programme, that would be your second year. If you're in a 4-year programme, it would be your second or third year, and so on and so forth. Then you could have a look at a summer placement. Now, the vast majority of formal summer placements are aimed at what we call pre-final year students. So if you're on a standard 3-year programme, it would be the summer between year 2 and year 3. If you're on a placement year programme, this would also be something which would be offered between years 2 and 3, where your third year is spent elsewhere and you come back to do a 4th year. You might also see this term internship. Now, internship and placement are quite often used interchangeably. If you're in your final year, it might be that there's an opportunity to do an employer or a sector-linked dissertation as part of, if you have a dissertation as part of your final year. And if you're a graduate or looking to graduate in the next few months, then we have a programme called Manchester Graduate Talent, which I shall talk to you a little bit more about later. There is increasingly as well graduate internships, and you do find these quite a lot in public sector and charity organisations, where they're looking for someone who's a graduate, but they're perhaps looking to build, to offer you the opportunity to build some short-term work experience. And these range anywhere between probably 2 months and 12 months. If you're on a taught postgraduate programme, so a master's or a postgraduate diploma, the options are the same as final year in essence. And if you're a doctoral postgraduate, then it might be that if you're funded by certain funding agencies, there might be a placement as part of your programme, or alternatively you could consider self-arranging this. Certainly I have seen PhD students do this where they wanted to gain experience in a certain sector. Or alternatively, you can look for opportunities to build this into your doctoral programme with collaborations. And if you want more details about what you can do at different stages, then this link at the bottom, find jobs/internships, will take you to the section where you can click on the year group that you're in currently, and it will give you details of all the things which could be an option for you in the year group that you're in now. And hopefully, if Kim's able to, she might be able to put you that link in there if you wanted to have a quick look at it now.
Yeah, that's already in the chat. Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you, Kim. So now part 4, as I said, I am going to spend most of my time talking about part 5. So I just want to mention COVID, because it would be rather remiss of me if I didn't, with the fact that it's had so much of an impact in all of our lives in many, many different ways. And of course, it has had an impact on work experience. So the main impact that it's had on work experience is that employers are quite wary about encouraging more people into their physical organisations. So they're not looking to bring a lot of people into their businesses and organisations because, excuse me, because clearly they're looking to limit the numbers of people from a point of view of contact. Now, having said that, employers, particularly graduate employers, they absolutely rely on new talent, new graduate talent coming in each year to maintain their workforce. So the employers are adjusting their approaches. So they are offering a lot of online opportunities, which clearly are going to be different to a face-to-face experience, but can still be very valuable. The other thing it's worth I wanted to be clear with you about is that employers are also, all the employers that we've spoken to are also adjusting their expectations. So they're not expecting people to apply for work experience, for placements, or ultimately for graduate jobs with a whole load of face-to-face work experience, because they understand that for the last 6 to 9 months that has been almost impossible to gain. So they're not expecting to see all of that work experience that they may have otherwise expected to see. However, they are expecting to see that you've done something. So they want to see that you've done something that either demonstrates your interest in the sort of work that they are offering, or that you've done something to, I guess, develop yourself. So this could be online courses, it could be about talking to people who are perhaps working in the sector, or exploring different career options by attending networking or perhaps online social events, or joining in perhaps professional networking groups. So they are expecting to see that you've done something, but they're not necessarily expecting to see the level of work experience that they might otherwise have seen. So, got a hurdle here. The hurdle is COVID. And what I've attempted to do is giving you some ideas as to how you can jump over that hurdle. So how do we get around this impact of COVID? And what I've tried to do is I've started perhaps with some of the relatively straightforward things, and then perhaps some of the things which are a bit more tricky to secure. So starting over on this side, one of the easiest things you can do is talk to people. So it's about understanding what other people do. Have a look at what people do with your degree programme. You can do this very easily on LinkedIn, and you can find out how to do that on the Careers Service website. But talk to people and find out more about their jobs. And by talking to people, you'll also be building your contacts. And if you are happy using social media and you don't already have LinkedIn, I would really recommend it, particularly if you're looking to build networks really broadly. So for example, if you're looking to get into a certain sector and you want to build contacts in that area, alternatively, if you're looking to build contacts in an international context, if you're looking to work outside of the UK when you finish your course, it can be a great opportunity to do that while you're studying. You can also go to virtual courses and virtual meetings. So as I said, I work in the biosciences, but last week I went along to a virtual meeting for people who do training in universities, and the week before I went to a virtual careers fair in the biosciences. So there's a lot that's happening now online, and it can be a great opportunity to hear really useful information, potentially link with those people afterwards if you want to use LinkedIn, and potentially build contacts. So for example, at the Biosciences Careers Fair that I went to, the virtual one, I found out that it was a lot of the smaller employers were saying that they're really struggling to secure staff, and they're really expanding their businesses, and they're really happy to get speculative applications, so people write into them just on the off chance they might have a job. So that was great information to hear, and something that I'm sharing, with as many people as I can. So you get little gems of information like that. So then we're getting towards the top of the hurdle. Volunteering is a very real option. There's some great opportunities for volunteering. Clearly, you need to think carefully about what is going to be the best approach for you, given your location, your workload, generally how you're doing. But we have a volunteering website here at the University of Manchester. It has a search engine where you can tick, I want to do work from home opportunities. So, and there's loads of great opportunities on there. So if you wanted to do something, but you would prefer to stay home-based, you can do that. If you are interested in doing something face-to-face, if you look through the university ones, then they have been in touch with the volunteering organisations to make sure that all their risk assessment processes are in place. So there is that opportunity as well. You can also look for more advertised opportunities, virtual internships, and I'm going to give you some resources as to where to find these in section 5. Alternatively, you could create what I've called a what-if opportunity. So this is about where, if perhaps when you're talking to people and you go into virtual courses and meetings and building contacts, if you were to talk to somebody and say, I'd really love to work in an organisation like yours, do you think there might, what if by April we're all allowed to go back to our offices and workplaces again? Do you think there might be an opportunity for me over spring vacation or over summer? So you can think about possibly contacting people to say might this be a possibility given everything? It's a changing situation, but given everything that's happening, might this be an opportunity? And then, of course, you can also look for formal summer placements. Now, we have seen some summer placements being advertised. Interestingly, but perhaps not surprisingly, there haven't been quite as many as usual have been advertised. And it's going to be interesting to see whether now, with the potential for vaccines being approved and perhaps a limit, or albeit not a clear limit, but a limit being set on the amount of time that we're going to need to maintain social distancing, it may well be that we hopefully see some summer placements coming online, perhaps springtime, which ordinarily may have been advertised a lot earlier in the scheme of things. Okay, so some key ideas around getting around COVID. And then finally, what's your suitable next step in your work experience? So I should say for number 4, if you wanted to write something down, perhaps have a think about some of those strategies for getting around the COVID restrictions and still managing to build your work experience. Have a think about which one might suit you the best. I will just make a pause there to see whether anybody has any questions. Kim, do we have any questions at the moment?
No questions at the moment. I have been putting links in the chat box for everybody, so hopefully you can click through to those. Yeah, if you do have any questions, do keep popping them in the chat box, and we'll come back to them.
Fab, thanks very much, Kim. Thought it was worth checking in. So I shall embark on point 5, deciding on what your suitable next step will be in your work experience strategy. So, to my mind, there are two clear strategies for securing work experience. But actually, this is also 2 clear strategies for securing work. So that's what I wanted to say. You know, brilliant that you're here today. You're thinking about securing work experience. This is like a dry run for when you're looking for a job after you finish your degree programme. So you're going to have done this before. So when it comes to the end of your degree programme, it's going to stand you in such good stead, because you're going to have had the opportunity to try this out for yourself whilst securing work experience. So thanks very much for being here today. So basically, there are 2 clear strategies. There's one where you can apply for vacancies, or the second is about self-arranging. So applying for vacancies, the advantage is you know that there's definitely an opportunity. You've probably got a fairly clear idea of what you'll be doing. There's usually some sort of description or advert at the very least, so that you've got an idea as to what you'll be doing, how long it's going to be. And if it's going to be paid, then they'll be very clear about it. So they'll tell you it's going to be paid, and probably tell you how much you're going to be paid. One of the disadvantages of applying for vacancies is, well, there's a few disadvantages, but one is that it's very reactive. So if there's nothing in the area that you're interested in currently, then it can feel a bit like, well, there's nothing, so what can I do? There's nothing. Second element is that if you've seen this vacancy, so have other people. So there's going to be that level of competition as well. So thinking about self-arrangement, the advantage is you can arrange whatever opportunity you really want. So you can tailor it according to either the skills you're looking for, the sector you're interested in, the organisation that you want to work for. And the other advantage is it's proactive. So it's something you can do at any point in the year. You don't have to fit in with other people's timescales. You can fit in with your own timescales. So if you find that you're not so busy, perhaps now coming towards the end of semester 1, then you can put some time into this now. Alternatively, if you say, well, actually, no, I'm going to do it mid-semester 2, you can do it because you're self-arranging it. You're not working to anyone else's timescale. Disadvantages, it takes a lot more effort. It does take a lot more effort, but the effort can be worth it. You do have to be quite resilient because, like applying for jobs, it might not work the first time around. And it can feel quite uncomfortable contacting people that perhaps you don't know at all, or certainly don't know very well. But we can support you with that process. And also getting a paid opportunity might be a little bit more tricky. And I've put a little asterisk here saying it's tricky, but it's not impossible. So obviously, if you're asking someone if you can come and do work for them, and then also asking to be paid, then that's sort of two things that need to be overcome. So, but it's not impossible. So it can be tricky, but not impossible. So I'm going to run through each of these 2 and have a think about which you think suits you. And really what I'd suggest is that perhaps you consider a blend of both of these. So it's not all or nothing, it's not one or the other. It's probably more of a combination of both. So most people tend to start here with the applying for vacancies. And in this section, I'm going to give you links, also some tips and some different strategies. So what I wanted to share with you here are 3 different options. So when applying for vacancies. So these are University of Manchester options. And just like any employer, we are not able to be entirely clear about what opportunities we're going to be able to offer come spring, summer, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. However, I've separated things into definitely, possibly, and maybe. So definitely will be happening are the student experience internships. And these are offered within the institution and also sometimes within local Manchester organisations as well. These are opened primarily to second-year students, although occasionally they're opened up to first-year students. So if you're a first-year student, do watch out for these. And they offer an opportunity over the summer. And an example I've given you here is of George, who did a sports heritage student experience internship, where he was looking at, I think, 100 years of university sport. So he was doing some research work into the history of sport at the University of Manchester. And the link is here on the bottom if you want more details. Now, it's very possible that we'll also be running something called Global Graduates. Now, there are certain eligibility criteria that need to be met for this. And as the name suggests, it's very much about building a global network. Now, with the current COVID situation, if this does go ahead, it won't involve the travel that it usually does, or it's very unlikely that it will involve the travel that it usually does. But it may well look to link you as students up with alumni from right across the world, working in a whole variety of organisations. And these are usually very senior alumni, so they can give you some really excellent career insights. So ordinarily it would be a week long and you'd be travelling overseas. Everything is up for grabs this year, so we don't know exactly how it might run, but we're looking as to whether we can create a virtual opportunity. And then, you know, perhaps less likely, this is a programme which I run for Biology, Medicine and Health, which is the Understanding Research Programme, where first-year students will be placed for 1 week with a PhD student mentor. And you can spend a week working alongside that PhD student, basically to build your understanding of the research process. Okay. So that's university and Manchester options. Now, national schemes. So this is where I got all high tech and started creating QR codes. So there are a whole range of national networks that you can use to look for vacancies. So Forage is specifically about online opportunities, excuse me. All of the others are generally about internships, placement, work experience, and jobs as well. But the links that I've created for you should take you through to the work experience relevant pages. Now, Prospects and Target Jobs are two very similar sites in that they provide an insight into graduate career options. They have dedicated sections on their websites to do with internships and placements, and that's what these two QR codes link you through to. The Bright Network and Rate My Placement are specifically placement sites, so they're very much about placements and internships. And looking on both of the sites, they still had hundreds of placements advertised, so there are still a large number of placements that are available. It's worth looking at the detail because they will vary from organisation to organisation as to exactly what they're offering, whether they're offering virtual opportunities, whether they're offering possible face-to-face opportunities, but with caveats based on public health recommendations at the time. And then finally, you've got LinkedIn. And LinkedIn can be a great place, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile already and you're happy to use social media, I would recommend that you set up a LinkedIn profile. And LinkedIn can provide you a great way of searching for the type of thing that you're interested in. So search for the type of job that you're interested in doing. And then at the top, in the jobs tab, it gives you an opportunity to search for the level of vacancy, and you can search for internship there. So it gives you an option to do that. So 6 different sites there. So these are some key resources for you. Okay. And then if you're looking for strategies for finding very specific options, so this is something which we're often asked as careers consultants, have a think about professional networks, professional societies or professional groups in the area that you're interested in working in. So for example, if you were to come to me and say, I want some work experience in performance dance, I'd say, right, okay, well, have a think about the professional societies that are working in this area. Quick Google of professional dance and society, UK, US, depending wherever you want to be based, put some sort of geography in there. And you can find these professional societies. Once you've found the societies, have a think about, have a look on their websites. They might have specific careers pages, which gives you advice and guidance. Alternatively, have a look at their events and see who's coming along to those events, see who's sponsoring those events, see who's speaking at those events. Another thing to think about, where do people who do these jobs meet? So if they want to talk about work, where would they go to meet? So for example, I've given you the Royal Society of Chemists here. They would meet up annually at conferences, but it will be different for different sectors. The other thing that you can do is look at people's LinkedIn profiles. So I am returning once more, third mention for LinkedIn in a different context, but you can have a look at people's LinkedIn profiles. You can have a look at Manchester graduates who've done your degree programme through LinkedIn and see what they've gone on to do. If you're interested in working for a specific organisation, you can have a look for those students who've done your degree and then search for that particular organisation and get an insight from a former Manchester student. People are usually more than happy to talk about themselves and their experiences. They're usually quite flattered to be asked. And after all, the worst thing that's going to happen is they ignore you or possibly say no. So you can have a look. So LinkedIn can be a really valuable data source. Okay, so those are my strategies for if you want to take a reactive approach and apply for something. So second part is about taking a proactive approach and self-arranging. So again, some links and tips and some strategies. So there are 4 key steps to self-arranging. First of all, you need to think about what's most important to you. Secondly, you then need to identify what possible options there might be. The third step is about making first contact with somebody. And then the final step is actually about asking for experience. So quite often, when we think about self-arranging some work experience, we jump straight to step 4. But actually, if you run through each of these 3 stages, it'll make it a lot easier for you. And these 5 later steps will become a lot easier. So first of all, and again, if you want to write this down, do feel free, but what's going to be most important to you? So it's thinking about what's possible for you. You know, is it possible to spend, if you're looking for a summer opportunity, spend a summer somewhere else? Can you relocate? Can you work for free, or is actually being paid really important to you? You know, working for free wasn't really an option for me over summer. I needed to be working to make money for the next year. So it really does depend on your personal circumstances. You might want to work in a particular area. I gave you an example before of quite often when I speak to people who are interested in studying medicine. They often want to know how they can get experience in the NHS, and we often talk about, well, you can get experience in the NHS, and yes, that would be helpful, but currently that's really difficult. So are there other things where you could work somewhere different, but it would allow you to gain similar skills? So how open are you to the idea of working outside of the sector that you'd prefer to be working in? And also here I've put working against your values. Now this sounds quite harsh, but what I mean by this is, so for example, if you really want an opportunity to perhaps develop teamwork and project management skills, and ultimately you're thinking, I'd like to work in the charity sector, would you be happy over a summer vacation period to perhaps go and work for a management consultancy company where most of what they do is very much about building revenue for an organisation, when actually ultimately you're thinking you want to work in a charity? So it's thinking through all of those different options and almost deciding where your barriers are. Because actually, I think the most tricky thing about self-arranging is thinking, well, I could do anything. So it's trying to find those ways in which you can perhaps bring some boundaries in to make it a little bit more manageable. So you'll have seen this slide before. It's very similar to the last one. There are a few. Tip 2 has changed there, but it goes back to the same process as if you were looking for a specific opportunity, advertised opportunities. It's about looking for those places where people who do the type of job you're interested in gather. So whether they gather virtually or physically, and you know, understanding where they are, perhaps looking for professional societies, professional networks. If you're struggling to do this, then do book in with one of your careers consultants, because we can quite often help you with this element of the strategy, perhaps either giving you hints and tips or talking you through in a bit more detail and demonstrating to you how you can actually go about doing this for real. And as I said, particularly possible options, look at who's sponsoring events. So I quite often speak to scientists who perhaps have got a strong academic background, and they want to understand where perhaps a really specific element of science, say immunology, where would I work as an immunologist? So I say to them, well, have a look at the Society for Immunology, have a look at their last conference and who sponsored that conference, who was speaking at that conference, look at where they're working, and have an, you know, and it helps to build an understanding of where people who've got similar experience to that you have are working, and approach them for the work experience. So now we're on to step 3, which is perhaps the scary bit, the first contact. So maybe you've got some contacts, maybe you don't, but here's how to get helpful ones. And again, it's another plug for LinkedIn. We can help you if you don't want to use LinkedIn. Do feel free to book in again with your appropriate careers consultant. We can talk to you about alternative strategies, but it is such a great tool. You can create a profile and link to all the people that you currently know. And the tip I'd give you here is also link to careers consultants here at the University of Manchester. If you know who your consultant is, or you know the consultants for your faculty, then link to the consultants for your faculty. Because I always say this to the biologists that I see. Myself and Suzanne tend to work with biologists, and between us we've got maybe 1,500, maybe 2,000 contacts, and most of them are biologists. And by linking to just the 2 of us, that means you get 2,000 second degree contacts, which is really helpful when it comes to LinkedIn. You can also join groups. So again, as I was talking about in the earlier slide, where you're thinking about where do people who do the job that I'm interested in, where do they gather? So with the professional societies, you can join those professional societies' LinkedIn pages, for example. And it helps you also with that first skill, going back right to the beginning where I started talking about commercial awareness. It helps you understand what's going on in the sector, because you'll get information coming into your LinkedIn feed. And it works very similar to Facebook, in that you have your own profile, but you also have a page which feeds information from the contacts that you have. And then finally, we get to the point where you can actually ask for experience. So there are different strategies you can use for this, but one I often recommend to people is that rather than necessarily directly asking somebody for experience, you ask people for advice on how to get experience. So you can say, you can say to them, I'm really interested in getting experience in investment banking. What advice would you give me? And if they've got an opportunity within their organisation that they're aware of, then they'll probably talk to you about, oh, well, we have this opportunity that you could apply for, or I know that so-and-so did this. It's a great way. And asking them to refer you on to other people who might be able to help you with that experience. If, for example, you're interested in research, you can do this really quite easily by talking to the any postgraduates or any academic staff who are teaching you, and ask them, what's it like doing research? How do you build research experience? Tell me a little bit about how you got to be where you are now. And you can learn from their stories, but also it gives you an idea of perhaps who you could ask to build experience. If you're self-arranging and payment is important, is going to be an important part of your decision making, then when you approach people to ask for advice, I would suggest making it clear from the start. It can seem a little bit uncomfortable, but actually think about how uncomfortable it is if you've had an exchange of 2 or 3 emails and you're all getting all ready to set something up, and then you say, oh, and by the way, I need to be paid. I would suggest just putting in, I'm looking for a paid summer internship when you write that first sentence. And this links into the third point about being very clear about what you're asking for. So don't start talking about yourself necessarily. If you're sending an email, say, I'm writing to see whether there might be an opportunity to do a paid summer internship with you. Then talk about yourself and why you're interested in working for that organisation. But be very clear right from the start about what you're looking for, because otherwise people are reading it and they don't know who it's from and they're thinking, what's this about? Whereas actually, if you're clear right from the start, first line of your email, what you're writing for, and then talk to them about all of the evidence, then that's great. So then finally, getting a paid opportunity may be more tricky, but it's not impossible. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about this. So as I said, it's worth being really upfront about a paid opportunity. But if that isn't possible, I'm now going to bring Anna Pascal in to tell you about the Career Service Bursary, which might offer one possible solution. Over to you, Anna P.
Thank you very much. So yeah, as Sarah said, so if you've got an opportunity, be that paid or potentially unpaid, the Career Service has a brilliant scheme that launched in November, which is there to support you with your work experience endeavours. So as you can see from the slide, we basically are able to offer support up to £1,000 for the academic year to help support you with either travel, accommodation or dependent care costs. So it could be all three of the things that you're needing help with to support you with your work experience. For example, if you had a research project which you need to get the bus up Oxford Road to do every day, that is a bus pass that you could ask for support with. Or, for example, you might have care costs that you might have children that you are needing to look after whilst you've got work experience opportunity. Be that virtual, you can still need support with it. The work experience bursary is there to support you with that. If you go to the next slide, Sarah. So the eligibility criteria, it's open for all undergraduate students, full-time. You can be EU, you can be an international student, you can be a home student. It's open for all applications. The only criteria is that if you're an undergraduate student and you're in your final year, you need to complete your work experience by June 2021. That is simply because we can't get the funds to you otherwise. So that is one caveat. The work experience bursary is there to support you with work experience, but it's not unfortunately available for people who might consider wanting to do to go on a conference, for example, for a day. That is great experience, but unfortunately the work experience bursary isn't able to support you with that. But all other opportunities, like Sarah has listed so many different ways in which you can get opportunities, the work experience bursary is there for you. So if you go to the next slide, Sarah. So how can you make an application? There is a link there that I think Kim will kindly put into the chat box for you. If you go to our website, you can see there's a how to apply section. There's an application form that you need to complete, which asks for kind of your name, your what your work experience is, kind of a contact details of your work experience provider. And it also asks you to give a bit of information about why that work experience will be helping you. So that kind of goes back to what Sarah was saying at the beginning about thinking, what is it that you're trying to get from the work experience? What are the skills that you're trying to develop for yourself, and why is this kind of helping you in that direction? So whatever it might be, that's kind of what the application is looking for you to provide information on. We're also asking for you to provide estimated costs. So, for example, if you have a fantastic opportunity, I've had actually an application this morning for someone who is looking to go next year for a 4-week placement to do a research project in Indonesia. So they are asking for support with flight costs. So they've provided an estimated flight cost, and that's literally just a screen grab of Skyscanner of their estimated flight cost. If you're going to do a more local activity or a bus, for example, a bus travel, then we'd again ask just for the screen grab of the weekly pass. It's just, for example, if you're doing a 6-week placement, you need a 6-week bus pass. So those are the sort of things that we're looking for evidence of to help support your application. And the applications are reviewed every month, and if I haven't got sufficient evidence, then I'll obviously come back to you and ask for more. But the more information you're able to provide, the better. And we also ask for you to provide a CV, and again, we're able to give you reflections on that. But it's not, you don't need to worry too much about the CV. It's more for you to provide, for us to see where you're at in terms of your progression in your kind of career history. So next slide. And the final thing, I think Sarah did mention the hurdles that COVID might be putting on us all. And I think the work experience bursary is really, as a scheme, we're really keen to kind of still be here to facilitate you to do work experience. We know that even though COVID is here, you're very much seeking work experience. And so all that we ask of you is that if you're taking work experience opportunities wherever you are based within the world, that you are able to abide by the restrictions that may be upon you. So if there are travel restrictions, then that would mean you wouldn't be able to do the work experience, then you just need to let us know, and then we can kind of amend and look at other opportunities for you. So yeah, it's just to make sure that you are in line with the government guidelines in the place where you are residing at the moment. But we're very much welcome for all opportunities. And I think if you go to the next slide, I think there is you can get more information from our website. And of course, I'm always here to take any questions if you have any. Thank you, Sarah.
Fab, thanks very much, Anna P. So yeah, just if you want to find out more, then all of our work experience information is linked from the QR code on the top there. Similarly, if you use Facebook and you want to join our summer internships, I know it says 2020, but it's covering 2021 as well. If you want to join that Facebook group, then any opportunities that we see coming up, we will post on that group. There's also plenty of advice on our careers blog, and the link is there. So I think that's there we go. Thank you very much for joining this workshop. I hope it's been helpful to you today. There is the opportunity, if you wish, to ask any questions. Kim, could I perhaps ask you to monitor questions and ask anything if there is anything coming up?
Yeah, there's only one come through so far, which is probably for Anna, which is, does the bursary run every year?
It does run. It's a very good question. It does run every year. It's reviewed annually, so we weren't quite sure how COVID was going to affect the work experience bursary, but it has been running for a good few years now, and we hope it will be able to continue. This year it's being supported by our alumni, so we're hoping that will be able to continue for years to come. But it's running this year, and we're very pleased by that.
Anna, would you be able to give people an indication as to when the funds run out?
Oh, so technically there isn't a date where the funds run out. We have a cut-off point of June 2021 for applications, and generally speaking, money becomes a little bit lower around that point. But this year it is a little bit different with COVID, and we'll just have to see how applications go. But it'll either be June 2021 when applications will end, or if the money runs out before then. Okay,
so people have got something in mind, it's worth them applying early.
It definitely is, yes. If you've got something, for example, the application I was talking about earlier about the person for summer work experience, they've already got the application in now. So if you've got work experience happening in January, in February, March, etc., yeah, get your application in now. The sooner the better in terms of you to be able to support you with kind of financial picture.
Thank you very much.
One more question. This might be for both of you, but perhaps Sarah, you might want to start with. Do you think it would be possible to do an internship abroad this summer? Big question.
Oh, that's a big question. Well, it was interesting for me to hear that Anna's had a request for somebody who's planning to go to Malaysia over the summer. I guess it could be possible. There obviously is a lot more risk associated with going abroad this year than there has been in other years. So I guess it's if that is something that you were looking to do, it's about perhaps building in plenty of contingency, making sure that you have your insurance sorted, and as Anna was saying about the work experience bursary, making sure that you're adhering to, you know, to the existing guidelines wherever you're based. I don't know if you've got anything to add, Anna.
No, I'd just echo what you just said. I think it is just a case of just keeping an eye on the government guidelines. For the person that I referenced to this morning, they have been asked, you know, to get insurance, as Sarah mentioned, and they're not booking their flights now. They will be kind of looking more to the future, as in nearer to the time. And I think that would be for any application for the work experience scheme. We'd definitely be giving you advice and kind of thinking about when you'd want to book flights rather than rushing into anything straight away.
Okay, thank you.
That's it for questions at the moment.
Okay, fabulous. Well, if we've answered all your questions, that's absolutely great. The Careers Service website is on the slide here. The slides are available to download. You should automatically, through GoToWebinar, get sent a link with access to the recording of this session as well. So if you wanted to revisit anything, then that should make that possible. But thank you very much for joining today. Thank you very much to Kim and Anna. It's been great to deliver this session with you, and we wish you all happy and safe rest of the day. Bye.